Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Alertus webinar series. My name is Vincent Busher, Marketing Coordinator at Alertus Technologies. During this presentation, Cameron Walmuth will provide insight on understanding Alyssas Law and the best panic button options for compliance. Feel free to submit your questions during the webinar at any time, and they will be addressed during the Q&A session at the end of this presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared with you after today's session. If you have any questions after this presentation, please email marketing@alertus.com. Now I'd like to turn it over to Cameron.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Alertus webinar series, understanding Alyssas Law and the best panic button options for complying to the new law in the state of New Jersey. Thank you for joining me today. Again, my name is Cameron, Senior Regional Account Manager for K12 and higher education, or education as a whole. Just a quick agenda of what we're going to be covering today. Quick background on Alertus, where we came from, where we started, our credibility, our experience in unified facility notification. Talk a little bit about current K-12 systems and how the industry is really gearing up towards a better way to notify their facilities. And also dispatch centers. We'll go over some challenges with current systems that are in place in some schools and most schools actually that we're talking to today. We'll go into the Alyssas Law requirements, compliance, and then solutions that we offer to adhere to those new regulations in the state. So Alertus Technologies, we started back in 2002. We're headquartered right outside of Washington, D.C. Our two founders actually went to the University of Maryland together and came up with the idea for Alertus. So it was actually founded around an educational solution. Now we are serving over 2,000 customers, and mainly the heavier industry market that we're working in is education. So again, this is a educational-based solution. But working with many other segments and industries like corporate, local civil governments, corporate institutions, military, and healthcare. So more importantly, talking about the facilities that you are in or that you're responsible for. How do you send alert these days? Typically, there's either multiple systems or lack thereof systems. Areas that are hard to reach, multiple buildings, multiple schools within a district, or just multiple methods of activating all of these systems in all of these schools. So what we're going to cover today is how to pull all of these different systems together and make your lives as either administrators, principals, safety directors, your lives easier in activating all of the different schools individually, enterprise-wide. Or as the new state requires, dispatch centers or law enforcement. Many of the challenges that a lot of the schools are dealing with today are mainly gaps within the system. Obviously the compliance we'll touch on here in a second requires Strobes to notify anybody coming or going and dispatch centers. But Alertus will take it a little bit further and make sure that your internal facility is aware of how to respond in these events, where they need to lock down, shelter in place. That actionable information is very important within seconds of something like an intruder walking into a building. Obviously, calling the authorities is right there next to notifying your facility, but we want to pull both of these systems together, or both of these ideals together, giving you a one-stop shop for alerting the authorities and your internal facilities as a whole. So let's talk about the law. This is why we're here today. The new law that was passed, formerly Bill A764, signed by Governor Phil Murphy a few months ago in 2019, this year. Unfortunately, the law came about because of Alyssa passing in the very unfortunate situation at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School back in 2018, February 14th. So what the law is basically looking for, obviously it says, as you've all have probably read and been educated on, some of the main points on the new law are the idea that each school, each building needs a panic button and a way to silently alert law enforcement emergencies or for lockdowns or other life-threatening situations on campus. These panic buttons need to be directly linked to transmit signals or messages to authorities upon the activation of these panic buttons. And then, more importantly, if your campus is located within a small township in New Jersey or a municipality where there is no police, it needs to be designated by the superintendent of state police. The panic button needs to be linked to a designated place by the superintendent of state police. Lastly, well, I would say lastly, but another important tidbit of the new law is the red emergency light or strobe that must be affixed to the exterior of the building, and it needs to be seen from roadways. If not, the light needs to be affixed in an area where the strobe can be seen from the roadway. So how Alertus can accomplish this? There's a number of different ways, and we'll touch on the compliance abilities of Alertus. But with Alertus, we give you the required one-touch activation for strobes, authorities, dispatch notification, and as I was saying, the additional layers or endpoints either through existing notification infrastructure like PA systems, desktop computers, voice over IP phones, Chromebooks, digital signage, or continuing to layer the system where there are no current pieces of infrastructure that we can tie into with proprietary Alertus endpoints like alert beacons, LED marquees, and so on. All the while activating from one of our many panic button options. And again, we'll touch in more detail on the panic button options for code compliance here in a few slides. So for direct compliance, we have our hardwired panic buttons. These can be strategically placed around certain facilities, in a principal's office or a main office. They can be also used as a way to call for help within the organization too. But again, in regards to the law, these buttons can be customized to activate the facility as well as activate dispatch centers via desktop override, alert beacons within the dispatch center, or voice over IP phones in the dispatch center. And we'll talk about how we can accomplish that here in a little bit. Other panic button options to activate the systems include USB panic buttons, as well as our software panic button. The USB panic button, you have an option between a one button activation, or we can give the option for separate preset configurations on one USB panic button tray almost. Now, with the strobes, to comply with the law, we have a number of different options and many different colors that you can choose from. Obviously, you have your stackable signaling lights you can see from a greater distance, or you can color code for certain emergency codes that you have within your school. You have your incandescent strobe that can be placed, on a wall. It can be bracketed out of the wall and aimed up or down. So there's a couple different install options there. And then you have your horn strobe. Again, the incandescent strobe and the horn strobe both come with different lenses that you can use for coloring. I believe the code compliant is either amber or red. I have to check again. But again, the lighting, the lens can be customized. The horn strobe obviously has a horn attached to it. You can deactivate the horn in the event you don't want any type of audible signaling. So a more in-depth look at the duress button here, the panic button. You can customize these, the top and bottom title of the panic button. So you can say emergency and then maybe an abbreviation of your school or high school or school district. It's up to you how you want to customize the titling of the buttons. And there are multiple color options. I believe it's yellow, blue, green, black, orange, and red, if I'm not mistaken. So you have some options there. You can line them up in a main office or, again, a principal's office. And not only do you have a one panic button solution, but you have a multiple option spread of ways to activate your facility or the dispatch center of your local municipality. This is a true one-button approach to activating the Alertus system. It's as flipping the clear cover and pushing the panic button. That will activate any preset endpoint or message that you've configured for that button press. So you do have unique scenarios that you can associate with these buttons. The other options here, a more discrete option is the USB panic button. They are recessed, so if you do put them underneath of a desk, you won't have the option of kneeing them and accidentally activating the system. They are recessed again. They are eliminated if they are connected to the USB port correctly. If they are not, the user will be notified that the button is not plugged in. So there is a fail-safe there with the USB panic buttons if they're not readily in your sight of vision. The USB panic button actually leverages the desktop activator client that would be downloaded on the computer. It's just an easier way to activate it from a hardware button. The desktop activator can be used in a couple different forms. One, as a desktop icon on the desktop computer. You can use it as a icon in the system tray with a pop-up of different options. I believe up to 10 different options that you can configure for a specific computer like a main office. So again, you're not just relying on one scenario. You can activate the system and the dispatch centers for multiple scenarios. On the flip side of this desktop activator, there's a dual purpose. For teachers or counselors, I've seen it in most use cases, a counselor working with a troubled student, for instance. If the situation is escalating, they can pull up an icon on their computer and send a discrete notification to, say, a school resource officer mobile app, Alertus recipient mobile app on their phone, or a desktop override on their computer, to let them know that this particular teacher in this particular room needs help. They can do a quick incident report if they need, but it's a good way for internal distress calls or calls for help. So again, touching on the, reiterating my points on the visual signaling, we do have those three different options for the outdoor or indoor strobes. For the Alyssas Law, to be code compliant, we would be placing these outdoors. And just a quick snapshot before we get into the system in a little bit more detail is an overview of all of the different endpoints that Alertus offers to continually layer the system as much as possible to make sure you're not missing anybody in the event of emergency. As I was saying in the beginning, notifying the authorities is right up there with notifying facility to make sure that your facility is fully aware of how to respond with actionable information within, say, 5 seconds of an alert being activated. That same simultaneous activation can activate the dispatch centers in your local dispatch centers. So again, activating authorities, there's always been the worry of how long it would take for first responders to get to the schools. In this case, you're giving your facility internally the information they need to either lock down, stay away from doors and windows, or evacuate, or et cetera, other emergency situations that may occur. Some common K-12 solutions that I see the most in my 5.5 years of dealing with education. You have your desktop computers, obviously laptops, Chromebooks, voice over IP phones. We have integrations with Cisco and Avaya. We have our PA system integration, which covers the most service area. If you have a PA system that reaches the majority of your internal facility, classrooms, hallways, cafeterias. In those louder areas like cafeterias or gymnasiums where the PA system isn't loud enough, you will most likely see the alert beacons and the LED marquees to cover those high volume areas of students where it's very loud. So once you have everything in place and you have, the strobes, you're compliant with strobes, you have your panic buttons, we have the clients uploaded on the dispatch computers, and you've gotten approval from the dispatch centers to have these clients on their computers as a pop-up method to allow them to be notified of an emergency at a specific school. How do you activate everything? We give you multiple methods. Obviously, to be compliant, you need a panic button of some sort, whether it be the USB activator on the left or the hardwired customizable panic button over there on the right, top right. Now, to even further that, so you're not, completely reliant on getting to those specific zones where there is a panic button, or maybe the front desk attendant is not at their desk. Maybe that area is compromised. How else do you activate these systems? Well, you've got a couple different options. If you have the integration with your voice over IP phones, you can dial an extension from any extension within the facility. You can reach a computer and log into your web-based console where all of your preset activations are held. And most efficiently, you have an Alertus activator application. It's probably the most efficient and effective way to activate the Alertus system. This will activate the same presets, the same endpoints that you have configured for your compliant panic buttons. But again, you're not reliant on getting to these specific areas where these panic buttons are held. A great use case for this, and a case study that we had worked with a school in Ohio. They had a Homeland Security regional rep come out with their principal. They wanted to see the effectiveness of the mobile app activator if there wasn't a way to get to a panic button. And they activated their entire high school from the parking lot of their school, all three of them standing there, and they activated an evacuation test. They activated the school within 30 seconds while they were standing in the parking lot of the high school. So again, probably the most effective and efficient way to activate the system. If they had it set up there in Ohio to activate their dispatch center, they could do that as well. So a deeper look into the Alertus mobile app suite. There are two different completely separate applications. One application to receive alerts or report incidents. You can also set up one-touch buttons within the app to call 911 or call for an ambulance or call public safety. So the recipient app has a dual purpose for sending incident reports or calling for help as a almost panic button or distress call. And once they have that app, they'll receive notifications as push notifications rather than a text message. We've actually seen the push notifications come in somewhat quicker than text messages at times, depending on text message carriers and access to data or cellular data. The other app that I was just mentioning as a additional fail-safe, if you can't get to a panic button, is the Alertus Activator application. And you can see they're very user-friendly. You have all of your preset configurations set within the system, and they will be mirrored and follow user presets. So using user and access rights, if the principal has the rights to see all of the presets within their school, it will mirror that access with his credentials when he logs into his Activator app. So getting into the Cisco phone notification, it could be another way to activate the system as a panic button. You can, and I should preface that by saying, with the Cisco integration, the capability to activate the system from the Cisco phones is only available through the Cisco API. You can use the phone as an endpoint. It will override the screen with an emergency message, as well as a loud tone. As you can see, there's a number of other very valuable features within the Cisco phone notification. One of the more important is call monitoring. If someone does call 911 from their office phone, they can activate a notification for administrators or school resource officers, letting them know that a number was dialed from a specific phone within the facility. Very similar to the Cisco integration is the Avaya phone integration. Really the only difference with this integration, Avaya does not have the ability to activate the system through an extension on the phones, as well as the ability to monitor for 911. That is not available to the Avaya phone integration. However, they can be used as notification assets, overriding the screen and a tone from the phone. As mentioned earlier, is another activation method is the Alertus console. You can access this from any computer within your local area network or wide area network, depending on how you have your server configured for the school district or school. Your user and access rights will follow with your credentials. So again, if a certain individual only is allowed to activate certain activations, that access will follow them from wherever they go around the school district or school. You can access the console from your phone. We do have a mobile-friendly console. Honestly, you would probably want to use your Activator app. It'd probably be quicker access to get to your presets than getting to a Safari or a web browser on your phone and then logging in using your credentials. I definitely recommend using the Activator app in this case, but in a pinch, we do have a mobile-friendly user console. So how the integration or compliance works with the alert system and your dispatch centers. As you can see on the bottom, it is dependent on, we don't have the power or control to tell your police department that they can use a desktop override client on their dispatch computers. You will have to get signed off by the local police chief or sergeant in the local dispatch center. However, there are a couple different ways to do this. If you have, and I have talked to many schools, school districts within New Jersey that they already have a panic button system that notifies their local dispatch center. That's great. We can use those current panic buttons to activate the Alertus system through simple dry contact closures. You can have as many panic buttons to activate the Alertus system, and you can just simply activate the current dispatch alerting system that you have in place already. So you're not having to change anything. You're just going to be adding some facility-based notification with Strobes for the compliance, and if you wanted to continue layering the system for a more unified facility notification approach, you have that scalability with the Alertus system. You can use the desktop clients. Once you get the approval, you can add a client on those dispatch computers in those offices. There are ways to acknowledge the alerts to make them go away once the dispatcher sees and acknowledges the emergency, what school, so they can dispatch the authorities. So it's not going to bother the dispatchers, natural flow of dispatching authorities. They can simply just acknowledge the alert and it will go away. You can run tickers across the top or bottom of the screen, or you can use a simple quarter screen pop-up. So you've got some options there in notifying the dispatch centers with desktop clients. We've also seen using alert beacons in dispatch centers, specific for a local school district. And that alert beacon will activate when a specific school within that district has been activated for a specific scenario. So it's very highly customizable. It doesn't need to be activated every time there's an emergency at the school. You can notify that alert beacon in that dispatch center for just lockdowns or just intruder or whichever procedure you want to activate that beacon for. Very, very customizable. And then another option, as I've seen, deputies, and usually this is for smaller school districts with a smaller township within the state, but deputies can download the recipient app. So this will be a direct line to anybody patrolling the town. They will receive a notification on their phone as soon as that school is activated for a lockdown, and they can drive directly to that threat if they are notified. Lastly, IP phone integration. If the dispatch centers, the most uncommon really, is using the Cisco, Avaya, or SIP Annunciator for the phones within the dispatch centers. It's possible. We've seen it in the past, but it is the more rare integration. Typically, you'll see the desktop clients or alert beacons in the dispatch centers. And if you don't have a panic button system in place already, like I said, the clients or alert beacons in dispatch centers are the most common. Here's some technical information on the Cisco integration and the Avaya integration. If you're interested in this integration, we do have questionnaires that you can contact me after the webinar today, and I will gladly send over the questionnaire for your IT department to fill out and send over. That way we can give you a 100% accurate decision if we can integrate with your Cisco or Avaya. Lastly, the SIP Annunciator. This is a bit of a different integration with IP or PBX system, phone system. It's a third-party device that we connect directly to your system, and it pushes out actually a text-to-speech tone through the speakers on the phone systems throughout a extension or number that you have pre-configured to activate for those emergencies. So let's talk about alerts in action. I gave you guys a use case study earlier with a school district out in Ohio. This is actually a school in Virginia, Episcopal High School. Before alerts, we simply use a siren for emergency notification. With that siren, it just wasn't enough. They had to physically go to the siren, press the button, and it wasn't enough coverage. They needed a more layered approach to their emergency notification system. So they added Alertus. They added many alert beacons around their campus to fill in gaps. They used a current text and email system to integrate with those sirens to continue unify their current systems. So something that we could integrate with would be a current panic alarm to dispatch. We would integrate with that, automate those systems together, or you could use some of our integration capabilities for dispatchers. They also started to use the text-to-speech through their current PA systems. Instead of, they had an unrehearsed way of sending live voice messages to students and coaches in athletic fields, sometimes voice pitches and just acoustics in certain areas. It's hard to hear when there's a live voice being pushed out over those types of speakers. That's why we, as a company, lean heavily on our proprietary text-to-speech to cut out that the option of those high pitches or tones for unrehearsed or untrained individuals in those situations that need to push out a notification over those systems. Here we have a visual of what a K-12 facility will look like with a fully layered system. Obviously, you see in letter I, you'll see down here, bottom right, you have a panic button in this strategic area, panic button over here with A in a strategic area, looks like a main office, another panic button in looks like a computer lab here in the hallway. So again, strategic locations, typically in K-12, you won't see them in every hallway just because you don't want to have to worry about students accidentally hitting the panic button on test day. But so in strategic locations like the main office, principal's office, you would have your full system activations for the Alertus system and activating your local dispatch center. The alert beacons around certain areas, like the computer lab, hallways, gymnasiums. Majority of the solutions in K-12 are going to be desktops, laptops, digital signs in cafeterias or gymnasiums or hallways that typically just have information on them as you're walking by. We can override them. So again, it's all about really just layering the system within the facility, giving your occupants as much information as possible so that they can be better prepared for when the authorities do arrive once you've activated that dispatch center. So as we're wrapping up, everyone, these are some additional resources that you can take a look at. I can also send them directly to you if you would like. I'll leave this up for a second, give you a second to copy some down. They are easily found on just our website at www.alertus.com. You can also check out our blog, alertus.com/blog. And lastly, before we close up, let's get into questions. You also have my contact information, my direct office line, my email, so please feel free to contact me at any time for a more tailored demonstration, or being New Jersey and us being right outside of DC, I could always and happily make a visit to your physical location and bring a demo kit and give you a in-person demonstration. So there's many options here. Typically they're done remotely, but again, New Jersey is close enough that I would be happily to get out of the office and come visit you guys there at your physical locations for an in-person.
Thank you, Cameron. We are now beginning the Q&A session of our presentation. If you have a question, please submit them through the chat or question box. Please note, if we do not get to your question during this session, a representative will reach out to answer your question directly. A recording of this webinar will also be shared with you after today's presentation. Now let's begin with our first question. Can a panic button be used to produce multiple messages?
Yes. Well, a single panic button will be configured for one specific emergency, but you can have multiple panic buttons configured in strategic locations. I was saying earlier, we do have a USB panic button that has the ability to have 4 different buttons on it, so you're not restricted to just one button, or you can have a line of hardwired panic buttons with customized titles on them as well. Again, the other option would be the mobile activator or the desktop activator. So there's a lot of different activation methods. But to be compliant with the new law in New Jersey and using physical panic buttons, you would have to have multiple individual panic buttons for each alert.
Next question. Is there a way to integrate the panic buttons with an access control system?
Yes, absolutely. If you have a access control system present already, there's a couple different ways. Most commonly just through simple contacts. You can lock down or open up an entire facility. Depending on how your access control system is configured, you can zone certain parts of the building using multiple relays for certain doors, certain zones, or wings, or buildings within a campus.
All right. Next question. Can a panic button be used to deactivate a false alarm?
You would have to go into the console, log in, and deactivate and cancel the alert from the web-based console. So no, you would not be able to deactivate from a panic button. You could set up an all clear, but no, not deactivate.
Next question. If our building has multiple panic buttons, is there a way to locate what panic button is sending the alert?
Could you repeat that?
If our building has multiple panic buttons, is there a way to locate what panic button is sending the alert?
Absolutely. So each panic button can have a specific location configured to it. So, for instance, the best way to explain this is if there's for an example, in a library, if the library panic button's been hit, it can send the location of where that panic button was pressed to a pre-configured group of endpoints or dispatch centers. Again, the system is highly customizable for these types of situations. So, short answer is yes.
Next question. How are the panic buttons powered? Is the power source internal or external?
The panic buttons do require an alert beacon. The hardwired panic buttons require an alert beacon. There are 2 input contact closures on the back of the alert beacon. We do have IP relays that you can attach multiple alert beacons to. The USB panic buttons connect to a USB port on an available computer in the main office, but they are not powered. They are connected to an alert beacon which receives the power. So, yep, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Cameron. We have now concluded the Q&A session of our presentation. Again, if we did not get to your question, we will reach out to you directly with an answer. If you have any questions or need additional information, please feel free to reach out to email us at marketing@alertus.com, and we will be happy to assist you. If you are looking for more information on Alertus and our other solutions, visit our website at www.alertus.com. If you're interested in upcoming webinars, please visit alertus.com/webinars to see the full schedule. Thank you for joining today's webinar, and we look forward to meeting you again soon.